Nous sommes là pour parler de Lilyhammer, la série que vous avez vue hier peut-être en projection. Tout le monde a un micro, oui. Et je voulais vous présenter les créateurs, les producteurs, les acteurs de cette série. En commençant par Tom, qui travaille à la chaîne norvégienne et qui a initié ce projet. Steven Zandt, comédien américain. Guitariste de Springsteen, qui était en concert à Bercy mercredi et qui sera en concert ce soir à Copenhagen. Copenhagen, right? You're going to concert tonight in Copenhagen? You'll be at a concert tonight in Copenhagen? Denmark tonight. And Anne and Elis was the creators and the writers of the series. Ah oui, est-ce qu'on peut voir le trailer ou pas alors? Oui. Allons-y, on va regarder la bande-annonce. Comme j'ai fait hier, je vais poser la question en anglais directement parce que ça va plus vite. Et donc le débat va être en anglais. Donc ceux qui ne comprennent pas trop l'anglais, il y a évidemment des oreillettes avec une traduction. Je crois que c'était bien pour voir la bande-annonce parce qu'hier on a vu un seul épisode, mais la suite me semble très prometteuse. So thank you for being here. And we're going to talk about the series. Before we go into the making of that project, John, I would like to ask you a little bit of an overview about your market in Norway, in terms of number of hours produced, the number of networks. Just a quick overview of your country before we go into the detail of that really great series.
Well, in Norway, it's a small country, 5 million people only. We do a lot of co-producing in Scandinavia, and we in Norway have kind of trained our audience to embrace Scandinavian drama. We put it on the best slot, so we have, and people loves it. And then we also, culturally, we have been looking to America for decades. Wow, everything new and fantastic comes from America. So we are very fond of a lot of the American series, especially the HBO series and so on. So we do see a lot. I mean, the audience sees a lot of things that we have.
Do you mean the ratings of the American shows in your country are quite big?
They are, quite big. But biggest of all this year is Lilyhammer. And it was aired on the slot on Wednesday, where we normally don't show drama, and the ratings raised from 26% at that slot up to 57%.
57%.
57%, and that was on the first, airing. And then we had 2 reruns the same week, and each of them, and we had that on, the NRK2 and NRK3, and that was also viewed by at least 100,000 each. And then, I mean, people, the audience habits for watching drama, they are changing. They see more on the net. And this Lilyhammer was just a huge success on the net. It was around 250,000, approximately that saw, all the episodes on the net. It was up to 470,000, actually, for some of the episodes. And on the first episode, we had 2.5 million clicks. We don't have a guarantee for that 2.5 minutes that they have seen the whole episode, but we know that is a huge interest. And it is also the show of the year for the last year in 2011-2012 that has been most watched and loved by the part of the audience that is most difficult for us to get, namely the young ones. So from 12 years to 29 years, it is, has really the highest rating.
The first season is how many episodes?
It is 8 episodes of 45 minutes.
And it's being screened once a week, so for 8 weeks?
Yes, for 8 weeks. And we also see a change in the habits of how the audience watch drama, because we have these boxes where you could, the PVR, where you can record the programs, and the audience watch approximately 25% of all shows that they see, including in all genres, 35%. But for drama, the numbers are 41%. So they record it and they see it when...
You said you had a rating of 57%.
Yeah.
How long ago did you get such a rating on any series in Norway? Was it like exceptional?
Yes, it is exceptional. But on the average, the main channel has 32% rating.
Okay, so you're way above that.
Yeah.
There's only one other drama series that has had those kind of numbers, and
yeah.
I think probably if you add the internet numbers, I think we would be the most viewed.
Yeah.
I think the premiere was the most viewed premiere on a drama series on new-yorkais, is that right?
Yeah.
Has it become in the country with the press and the internet a kind of an event series? I mean, I guess you already know the series in your country.
I didn't understand.
That's it. I mean, this series with this rating. I guess also the press talk about it.
Yes.
So is it a series that everybody in the country knows? Is it like an event?
Yes.
I think so. The Prime Minister, he was on Twitter before several episodes and said, "Wow, I wonder what happens tonight."
Yes. So it's a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let's go to that series. So who had this crazy idea of taking an American guy, a star soprano, and on stage being a guitarist, and bringing into this faraway country in the snow? So how did it start?
We had this idea about a gangster who runs away and comes to Norway for many years. I think already in 2003, 2004.
Yeah, we were married, by the way.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of who you are, what you do before, give us a bit about us.
We're comedy writers, and we're also married, as I said. We had this idea, and we thought maybe it was more like a crime novel, or it was partly inspired by Animal Letter, those type of books, like Get Shorty, a mob guy out of his right element, but we thought the idea was a little bit too weird, to make something out of, and we really didn't start believing it for real before we met these two guys over here. We thought,
crazy guys.
Yeah, we pitched it to Etude and NRK, and they liked the idea and we wrote. We started writing the first script, and then we pitched the idea to Stephen simultaneously, and because Stevie was in Bergen, and we kind of hijacked him. He was on a concert.
When you wrote the concept or developing the script, you had the idea of Stephen. You thought.
Yeah, because the idea is about a mob. You need a guy who can play a monster. That's obviously one thing, but also it's
you feel okay with the definition? You go on.
I don't know where they got that idea.
No idea.
And also, if you just put a guy there who knows, the show is very much also about social democratic Norway, and you also need a guy who knows about these things. And in the world, there are not very many people who can play a monster and who also knows about Norway. I think Stephen is quite an obvious choice. He's been producing rock and roll bands in Scandinavia for a long time, and I don't know how he got this crush on Scandinavia and Norway, but
tell us why where are you living in the States? Which part of the States are you living?
I live in Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
So why do you have a crush on Scandinavia? Is it a girl?
Several. Let's see. I think. First of all, I've been performing there for many years, but once I started my radio show, which we just celebrated the 10th anniversary of, it's called Little Steve's Underground Garage, and it's a 2-hour weekly radio show that plays all 60 years of rock and roll, emphasizing new rock and roll.
And he plays where back in the States?
It is in 180 countries, actually. It's almost...
so you start in television, in music, in radio.
Yeah.
Anything else? You did painting or dancing?
I wish. No. And I noticed once we started the radio show that a very large percentage of the new great rock and roll bands, and let me just narrow it a little bit. My show is called Garage Rock, which means traditional rock and roll. If you picture the early Rolling Stones or the early Beatles, that's the type of music it is. There are still bands playing in that style, in that traditional rock and roll style, but no one would know it because there was no format for it. And there are no radio stations that play it, except mine now. So we started this format to support those bands and show people that there are still traditional rock and roll bands out there. And in fact, we have introduced 500 of them. But we noticed that most of them, I mean a very high percentage, I'm talking about 20, 30%, were coming from Scandinavia, which is, for no particular reason. And no one really knows why, other than, and I can generalize about Scandinavia this way, they do have an absolute passion for Americana. There is no question about it. We broke the hives among others, a Swedish band, and I remember speaking to them 3 record labels ago before they got famous. And I was speaking with them, and they're from northern Sweden, not even from Stockholm. And they knew every member of Little Richard's band, from 1955. And they're all in the 20s. That's not atypical. I mean, there's a passion for all things American in Scandinavia. So
when the first time you went out there, like we saw yesterday, when you arrived in Norway with the snow and the shoot, it was the first time you actually stepped out there. Do you remember? No, your life. Do you remember that first time?
Well, the very first week, we did a very quick tour of Europe in 1975, but I mean really quick. 2 shows in London, 1 in Amsterdam, 1 in Stockholm.
So this is the first time you were in Stockholm?
Yeah, but we really didn't tour Europe for real till 1980, and then we did an extensive tour. And interestingly enough, Norway was never on the rock and roll map. Even people who did come to Europe in those days, and most people didn't come to Europe, but those who did, they skipped Norway. They played Stockholm, they played Copenhagen, and that's about it. I then started a solo career in the 80s. I did 5 solo albums, and one thing I told my agent was I want to go everywhere. And that was the first time I played Oslo, which was 82. And I fell in love with it immediately. I mean, in those days, the old airport came in right through the fjords, It was like so you immediately fell in love before you even landed, remember the old airport?
Yeah.
Joan is happy with what you say. She still likes it.
Yeah, it was just beautiful. It was a beautiful place, and it was just a complete mystery to everybody, and still is, which is why we had so much fun really making Norway one of the characters of the show.
So how did these guys hijack you? You hijacked him. So where did that happen?
We were writing the first draft for the first script for the NRK when we happened to read in the paper that Bruce Springsteen and the Elis Skodvin were coming to Bergen, another part of Norway, and we decided, Steven is our first choice, why not approach him? So we managed to set up a meeting through some connections in the music industry, and it was a bit special for us because at that time we had a very small baby. It was maybe 4 or 5 weeks, so we were planning to have a babysitter, but it didn't work out. So we had to bring the baby to the meeting. And the girl who set up the meeting for us she was going like, "Oh my God, you're going to make me look so bad bringing a baby to the meeting." But then Steven showed up, and You didn't seem to mind at all, even though you must have understood that this is going to be something else, something completely different.
At the time, were you still a soprano or not? At the time they approached you, were you still a soprano?
3-4 years after Sopranos, or so. I mean, I'm not too great with time, but I think it was 3 or 4 years after Sopranos had been off the air. So, which seemed like quite a while. But even then, I was certainly not planning on playing a gangster again. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seemed,
So,
I think the idea was just irresistible.
So, before you wrote the script, you went to sit down with what kind of document? Just a pitch, or you had a script already?
Yeah, then we had like a spec script, but that was part of what was so great for us meeting Stevie because he also wanted to be a part of that. And writing the Norwegian stuff was came easy for us, but writing a believable gangster guy, that's maybe not as easy when you've never met one in real life. And so we then started writing together. And
but to be more specific, I would like to know if Tone commissioned the series before you had written a script and met with Steven, or after. At what point did you commission the project?
Yeah, before Stevie was committed to it. She commissioned, or she made like a look. You can, what's it called? A look, like a letter of commitment.
Yeah, a letter of commitment. Yeah, but you came with a kind of treatment or so, a pitch, and Stephen was on the front page.
Sorry.
You're getting me studying too now.
And I thought it was a very good idea. And I also got a crush on these people.
Did you know them before? Have you worked with them?
No, I just actually started in my job. So it was one of the first meetings that
it was a good one.
I had, yeah. So actually, this is my first commission. Because I've been, working much more hands-on in production as a writer, director, producer.
They like you now in this network. They like you in this network now. Your first meeting, your first commission, you make 57%. That's pretty good.
Yeah. But at the same time, at that time, I had a lot of freedom because we were a very, new organization and so on. So I could take very quick decisions. So we had a short development. You wrote 1 or 2 scripts and one script and a treatment, and then I said, yes, hello, let's go, green light it. Here's the money, and I can't.
Here's the money.
And after this success, I cannot do that because we have to coordinate better in the channel. So,
how long in between the time they came to see you with a picture of Steven on the front cover that you didn't know about, and the time it's on the air on your network?
It's 3 years and 3 months ago, I think, since we first met.
So 3 years and 3 months.
Yeah, and it was aired after 2 years and 9 months.
So you were the 2 writers for the whole first season.
We're 3, actually.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're right too. I forgot that.
But there was their idea, and it took, I was talking about me having some understanding of Norwegian culture, but the reason why this thing was capable of working was they both had a very good understanding of American culture, so it took both. As we were talking about yesterday, for these kinds of cooperations, call it a co-production or call it a cross-cultural sort of arrangement here, it takes both parties sharing that knowledge of the other's culture, I think, and wanting to integrate those 2 cultures or contrast them in this case. But that takes knowledge of both.
Well, but the fact that you traveled a lot all over Europe mean that you're not only American, you know the way European people think. So you're a little bit more open to that than some Americans that don't leave the States.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. I mean, plus I really love Europe in general. You know, after playing the States for so many years, you know, I thoroughly enjoy being in a different culture every week over here. You know, when we're on tour. So yeah, I've had a love for in general for Europe.
Because you have an interest into all our countries than just America.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you organize yourself to write with Stephen, knowing he was probably not living there? Where are you living in Norway?
We live in Oslo.
In Oslo? So you're not living there. So how did you work together? The development was then, I guess, about 2 years of writing? She says 3 years between the first meeting and the time it's on the air. So how long is the writing?
I think a year and a half.
Good year, yeah, good
year and a half.
And just right.
How did you organize yourself, knowing you were living in the States, I guess, and traveling all over the place, and you were living in Oslo? So how did you organize to work together?
One of the first things that we did after the meeting that went quite well was that we sent Stevie the first script, and he liked it, and we decided to go to New York to try to work together, because we needed to know if, you know, is it going to work.
You went to New York with your baby?
Oh yes, with the baby and the grandmother. And, you know,
All that for us.
Well, the making of it is a series by itself.
Yeah, I know.
So, and we quickly found out, or at least we quickly found out that, you know, this is something, you know, that could be really good.
I have a very indiscreet question. When you go to New York, do you go to John and say, please pay my plane ticket? Or not?
No. I think we have somebody paying our plane ticket, and they go to Tone. You know, like there's a production company they make, so they have.
Yeah, I mean,
we're not directly.
The network is paying for that.
We're not directly. There's a producer, which is Rubicon TV, and because that's the way it's organized. And it also makes in-house drama, but Tone is the boss of those that buy scripted projects, independent producers.
I commission programs done by independents, not the in-house production. We are a rather old-fashioned organization. We have a lot of in-house production.
Okay, we'll come to the producer and the director just after that. So you went to New York to write with Stephen. How long did you stay out there?
I think we stayed maybe for a week or something, but it felt like we were very much on the same page, and it felt like, you know, it was really great fun. And Stephen, because what's been very important to us with this idea is, you know, the theme of the culture clash. Of course, it's fun to put a mobster on the snow, freezing on very slippery shoes. It's kind of slapsticky, very funny. But there's another level to the idea that has interested us, and it's, you know, Frank Tagliano, he's a mobster in the New York Mafia. He has a very social Darwinist instinct towards life. He's used to taking what he wants when he wants it, and suddenly finds himself in social democratic Norway, where everything is organized and regulated, and he is stuck under the label of immigrant. And that is a conflict or a culture clash that we were very interested in, and Stephen seemed to immediately catch that level of the idea, and it was, you know, great to work with him.
I mean, it sounds easier than it is, and again, we were talking yesterday about co-production and how difficult it is for many reasons. But the very first, most important difficult reason is because all writers are complete egomaniacs. Okay?
No way.
We all are. We're this, you know, you're God, basically. You know, you're creating something from nothing, and it's a very, very, you know, it's a very egotistical sort of endeavor, right? And so the biggest challenge was, could we work together in a way, I mean, not knowing each other our whole lives, right? We just met.
And not living in the same place.
Yeah, you know, and you know, and there was a million questions. You know, I mean, there's just, you know, they're coming from comedy, and I'm not even sure if in the beginning they may have intended for it to be a bit more of a comedy, perhaps. We'll talk about that, but you know, I didn't want it to be a straight-ahead comedy. I wanted it to be a multi-level type of thing where we can have some serious moments, you know. And they were cool with that. They liked that idea. Then we went to how we do the multiple level thing. Well, we have the personal level, we have the business level, and then we have the cultural level. Right?
So I was thinking at the beginning that they kind of wrote the storyline of the series, and you come in more just with dialogue, but actually no, you really co-wrote the whole thing together, right?
No, we talked about everything, yeah, because it was extremely complicated. Just what the characters are going to be doing, what's the conflict going to be, okay? Because it's not going to be a comedy, we need some serious conflict here. And we have to figure out conflict in a country that doesn't have very much conflict. There's no crime in this country.
Well, it's
just
seen.
This guy jaywalking. What what's he gonna do? Knock people over the head with an ATM machine. It was quite a challenge. We spent months to try to figure out. Where's the crime going to be?
There's something you explained yesterday in our European production. It was very interesting. I'd like to go back into that. You said since afterwards you brought Netflix, which is an American partner in the project, you thought at the beginning that to make the show showable in America, you had to be careful about the Norwegian specificities. And instead of erasing them, you actually did the reverse. You pushed them a little more. That was very interesting. Tell us a little more about this.
Well, again, the Norwegian personality is extremely complicated, and why it's so interesting to me. And part of what it is, and Elis and Anne are great examples. And you can tell them too. They have a great ability to laugh at themselves. They know what's funny about Norwegian culture, even though it's their culture. Which is it's a very self-aware sort of. Unusual way of thinking.
They have a second degree about themselves.
Yeah, and they know what's funny, but they do it anyway. You know what I mean? It's like there's just, and it begins. I guess we can sum it up by just saying a bureaucracy. There's a pretty significant bureaucracy. And we just felt, well, that's something that we can make fun of all day long. And you know what? The Norwegian people, obviously, that's why I think the numbers were so big. Personally, I mean, we don't know this for sure, but I think they were vicariously enjoying my character making fun of their own bureaucracy that they create and they support. It's very complicated. But that's why it works, I think.
As an American writer, did you go out there and stay a week or two when you were writing the show to be in the ambience and be with these people?
Well, yeah. I mean, we spent some time. We spent some time together in various places. But I have a lot of Norwegian friends who are all similar in that intellectual awareness of themselves. It's a fascinating country. And I think just by being there enough, we were able to say, well, you know what? Let's make sure this thing works in both countries. And I think what's going to be the essence of that is the more Norwegian we can be, the better, because that's what makes things interesting. As I mentioned yesterday, I had learned this from both Bruce Springsteen and David Chase. I'm very, very best friends with both of them and watched their working method from scratch. And they would spend much more time than one would assume on details and local particular personalities or local habits or street signs, the streets, or details that are you would think are just only interesting to people from New Jersey. And in both cases, it turned out to be the more detailed they got, the more universal their work became, So I thought we can use that for us, because they know intimate everything about Norway, which I don't.
And you know what you're bringing as an American.
Well, yeah, and they know what my type of American character is going to, lose patience with, or
The contrast of the two obviously is very strong.
That's because of their awareness, But the point was to be as Norwegian as possible because that would be more universal. Interestingly enough.
Tone, at what time, when you got the script, at what time did you say, now I commission the production of the show? When you had one script to script 10?
Yeah, one script and kind of a storyline.
So it's like with the BBC, you have one script, you know,
yeah.
basically the casting, you have Stephen on board.
One or two, no, we casted, you know, during very close to production.
What I mean, you had the main actor already.
Yeah,
From the beginning, you had the co-writer and the main actor.
Yeah.
So having one script.
Yeah, but we didn't have, Stephen didn't sign when I signed.
Tone bought after the first script, and she knew we were talking to Stevie, but nothing more than that. Okay, he thought it was a cool idea, but I don't know if he really thought it was going to happen. I mean,
it was waiting for the last minute to make the prize go up, right? What? You were waiting for the last minute to make the prize go up.
Yeah, but what I think. Yeah, with that the broadcaster's role, I mean, we have to show some passion and dedication, and I think that is very important to make the story grow.
You have to show some passion.
Yes, I think
so
I
you
have to do that in my
network person.
I believe in you. I have to tell Anna and Elis that, hello, I believe in you, I believe in this idea. They were not very experienced drama writers, but I knew that all the elements were there so that we could manage to make a good story. And I think that is important if there are any broadcasters here.
Well,
that you kind
lot.
of have to risk something. You have to go into things.
What was your implication in the writing process? Were you making notes? I guess you were getting script each time. You were working on them, making them rewrite. So
I make notes, and I'm going to, you know, I have to approve all the scripts. But it's not a kind of. I don't think I'm that bossy.
Well, I think, you know, from our point of view, it was an ideal cooperation, because Tone would come to us and she would say, I read your script and I have a few notes.
You said a few notes?
She said, I have a few notes, and I will present them to you, and then you will have to see, you know, what you want to do with it. So it was kind of a very sort of free and very, it was more like a collaboration than someone telling you, don't do this, do that.
But on the development of 10 scripts, it's a lot of work. Did you have times where you felt she was not on the same path than you and she was going against you in some regard? Or did you feel that they were not doing the show you wanted? Did you feel sometimes you were going in two different directions and you had to reconnect, or never on 10 scripts?
I think if we didn't have the dialogue that we had, perhaps the show would have been a bit more narrow, a bit more cooler, more impressive for our colleagues and so on. But I know that if we are going to succeed with producing drama series with independence in my channel, a broad audience have to embrace it. So don't you think so? That
she kept saying things like, does he really have to beat him up?
I think it's the only thing we've been discussing, but I think it's also because Tone is she's very afraid of violence. You know, she's just a little blood, and I mean, we always have to tell her that it's not dangerous. It's because she jumps in the chair. But I think it's the only discussion that we were also, you know, the violence, non-violence.
Is it your personal taste, or the network's going to say no violence, no blood?
No, it is a mixture. I think, but I'm aware of that. I always hunger for happy endings and things like that. So I have to take that into consideration when I'm professional, because I'm not the one who stimulates very dark stories. You know.
But there is a big cultural difference that's the one area where we said we're going to have to compromise between Norway and America.
They don't have guns. You have guns all over the place.
the difference is Norway is civilized, so you can have sex and nudity and naked people, which is healthy, but they don't like a lot of violence. Of course, we are the opposite. So that was, and it was a decision we made as we went along, and I knew at that point we were eliminating distribution channels at that point. I started to say, okay,
in the States.
Yeah. I said, okay, this decision is a big decision. We just eliminated HBO. Yeah.
You said yesterday that the American partner you brought in actually financed 50% of the show, correct?
Somewhere around. It ended up something like that.
Okay, so which is a big partner, of course.
Yeah, but it was, yes. I mean, the answer is yes, because we were striving to make it as international as we could in terms of the format and the configuration of it, which requires a bit more post-production than a typical local production would. You know?
We'll go into the pressure company and the director afterwards, but you have the number of ratings in your country. Do you have any numbers about how many people watch it in the States through Netflix? Tell us a little bit about Netflix, because not everybody know maybe what it is.
It's new in a sense. They were a movie, just I don't know if you had Blockbuster here or what, but they're like a movie delivery company.
Like iTunes.
Yeah, but at first also in a DVD form. So they would deliver movies in the mail, and then their breakthrough was technologically being able to stream video, and so they got ahead of everybody with that. And then just recently they decided to start original programming, which was a very, very big move for them. They're a very successful company at the time.
You told me yesterday they had 20 million subscribers.
Yes, 20 million subscribers. Basically the beginning of the new digital age, okay? We're going to be seeing 4 or 5 other players coming into this market over the next few years, which is really healthy for us content producers, because they have money, real money.
You say for them it's a big breakthrough to go into programming, produce program.
Huge.
So is this your first series?
They chose Lilyhammer as their first original programming beyond the 100 entries they had. Every single producer in Hollywood called them. Everybody in America, and there's a big people in America. So you can have our show first. You can have our show first. They chose this first.
And last year, when this was out, how many other original programs did they do? Netflix
has 3 more coming this year. They still haven't broadcast anything but Lilyhammer as original program.
So you're the first one, actually.
Well, we're the first one by a year or so.
And do you have a return number about,
Yes, it's private. I mean, just between.
It's like iTunes, nobody knows.
But they don't announce it. But I happen to know 1.5 million people have watched all 8 episodes, and that's a very big number. In America, 1 million viewers of a cable program is a hit. But let me just say one thing about Tony, which I think we tend to take for granted, we tend to downplay. We're talking about risk. Yeah, we had some discussions about violence and things like that, which we needed to do for the Norwegian audience. But people are taking for granted that she greenlit a show starring a foreign person in a domestic show, speaking a foreign language.
With a bandana.
With a bandana. But I mean, I know we're all sort of taking that for granted, but it's really weird.
It is.
It's really an incredible.
Try this in France tomorrow. I'm not sure we're going to have so much success.
It's an amazingly courageous and innovative move. I don't know if anyone's ever done it anywhere. I mean, maybe not a foreign person starring, maybe, but then they would dub their voice, right? They don't have them speaking a foreign language. The lead person in the show is speaking a foreign language for a domestic show. It's insane.
You said yesterday the show was screened as we saw it. You speaking in English and Norwegian people speaking in English and their own language, right? So only subtitle when you were speaking English, correct? Or everybody understand English in Norway?
No. We subtitled the English,
Yeah, it's mostly Norway.
But this is the way that we speak with English speaking people, in a way. This is the way I speak with my English friends living in Norway. We swap from one language.
It makes sense. I mean, it made perfect sense for Norway. We weren't sure it would work for America, though. It happened to work wonderfully for America because...
But the percentage of Norwegian language in every episode is not that much, actually, because most of the time the Norwegian actors also speak English with you, with your character.
No, but the logic is that gradually he understands more and more. You know, and also people that know him, they will speak only Norwegian, you know, because they know that he understands Norwegian. Because the character understands Norwegian, I mean English.
So at the end of the series, he's speaking fluent Norwegian.
Yeah, well, maybe in his head.
No.
But
you take class?
That would be wrong. but he understands it fluently.
Did Netflix have the same input into development like John did in the writing?
Or not at all? Yeah, they came in during post-production, so they had input having to do with certain, the configuration of the show, some of the music of the show, things like that. I had written the theme song for the show, and started to do the score, which I really wanted to do, and hopefully I'll get a chance to do for the second season. But I ran out of time, so we had somebody else doing most of the score. And then we had a wall, you know, both budget-wise and time-wise on the music supervision side, which is the songs, you know. And so it got sort of semi-delivered without them, you know, because we just, you know, at that point, like we're on oxygen, you know, and so Netflix, you know, I have a great relationship with the head of content. He called and said, you know, you're a music supervisor. How come there's no songs? You know, I said, well, you know, we need your money, baby. Okay, so I write a check and I'll give you some songs, which is what happened. We were able to put the songs in at that stage and finish the post-production, really, you know.
That's great. So before John and Steven came on board, you had a producer. So tell us who is the producer, a production company, and what the relation is with the network. Because you actually sign with a production company, right? You don't sign directly with writers.
Right.
We are employed by a production company called Rubicon TV. We've worked there for maybe 10, 15 years.
So you're employed?
Yes.
On a salary basis?
Yes. So it's kind of
Is it common in Norway that writers are actually employed by companies?
No.
So you're kind of unique?
Oh yeah, I think it's just the circumstances that has made it like that. So it's
What
very
is the
common.
interest of that production company to hire you on a yearly basis, and if it lasts 15 years, what is the interest for them?
We have been, comedy writers and TV producers for many years and have been making a lot of different kinds of shows. And then Elis was also the head of development in Rubicon at the time that we...
I don't think we worked there so many years. I think
Oh,
so
no,
many years,
really?
but we had a small company and it was bought by Rubicon, and it was part of the deal that we were staying on, and so yeah. So it's just circumstances, but Rubicon is one of the biggest independent production companies in Norway, and it's a part of the Shine group.
Okay.
So we had Kudos, here earlier, which is part of the same family. So yeah.
And so that production company came to Tone and presented the show, and then you deal with them. And so Steven is hired by this production company to write and to play. Right. Okay, good. And at what time the director came on board? And how did you choose the director of the series?
The director came on quite late because we had some issues with the financing that didn't quite fall into place until quite close to the shooting.
Because a lot of this government, you need additional government funds for Norwegian productions.
I mean, part of the financing.
Yeah, exactly.
So not only the network is financing and Netflix, but you had...
Almost all that. I mean, Tone, you know more about this than us, but I think almost all the scripted, like big projects in Norway is partly, external funds, which
The way we do it with the production from independent when it comes to drama is that the production company owns the project. So then NRK goes in with, you know, around 50 to 65%, and they can apply the Norwegian Film Institute, which is a fund, for money there. And they can, if we do pre-sales to the Nordic countries, that also catalyzes that we can apply for the Nordic Film and TV Fund. And then we can also apply for media. We didn't get any money from media. I heard that, you know, media wants projects that travels, but we didn't get it.
This one doesn't travel at all.
Yeah. But I mean, I knew that it was going to be a success, but I must say that I didn't dream about that it would become such a huge success that it has been.
As Stephen said, it was a big risk to take that kind of show. Did you have a support in your own network? Or were they kind of afraid?
No. I didn't share my doubts with them, but actually I think I have that self-confidence that, I mean, I can put this together. I mean, we can make this. I believe in it. It's just, you know, to bring all the elements were there, so it was, I knew that we could make it.
So about the director, you said he or she, it's a she?
No, we have both. I mean, it's 3 people.
3 people?
Yeah.
So each one does 3 or 4? Or
yeah, one did 4 and the other 2 did 2 each. And they are great directors. We just talked to a lot of people and we picked, you know, some people we liked and it turned out
And good. In Norway, the director, is it like more the American way where he comes in late and actually does what's written and is not too much involved into the rewriting or stuff? Or is it more like the French way where the director has more...
No, we are writers, so we will of course say it's like America, but if you invite the director next year, maybe he will say something else.
Okay.
I mean,
well, actually, American directors, when they come here, they say, no, we just direct what's on the script. Yeah. They know they're not too much involved into the development.
Yeah, no, but I think everybody understands that it's primarily our project and that they are there to help get that vision across. I think that's...
Did you choose to write, to shoot in the winter, which I guess in the winter, to make more contrast about his arrival, or is it just like the schedule of shooting was in the winter?
And also because we wanted to force Stevie to wear wool underwear for the first time.
It looks so sexy in there.
A lot of fun. No, it was. I mean, the very first idea was the contrast of the weather. You know, just to, you know, we wanted to start with the obvious thing, you know. And it turned out to be one of the coldest winters in Norwegian history. So I got really, I adapted very quickly.
But is it common in Norway to shoot in winter, or you rather avoid that because it's difficult?
My impression is that people tend to avoid it because the days are so short. I think you have maybe 3-4 hours of daylight. Yeah. So people tend to, you know, if they can, avoid shooting.
But it was part of the idea. I mean, it was part of the pitch. I mean, we were pitching with that, you know, cashmere coat and, you know, those slippery shoes stepping off the train in the winter. That was part of the primary, you know, pitch we had for both Tone and Stevie. So it was a winter idea.
He had that picture in his mind from day one. When we stepped off the train,
yeah,
that was like his first picture.
That was the concept actually of this year.
That was it. That's the whole concept.
Minus 20 degrees for their shooting. How many days a week you shoot and how many hours a day?
We shot 5 days a week and 8 hours a day, which is because this.
That was the plan.
Yeah, that was the plan.
That was your plan. But you shot actually what, 10 hours a day or more?
Well, it turned out quite differently, and the reason why we planned 8 hours a day just to begin with was because the regulations in Norway are very strict. So that's also sort of a big culture clash in the production.
Very different. I mean, I'm used to 10, 12 hours a day on Sopranos, you know. So the actor in me was like, this is fucking great, right? The producer saying like, we're not getting enough done. You know, it was really kind of weird, you know. I mean, 8-hour days, you actually have a life, you know. It was amazing, you know. But you need those other couple hours because, you know, by the time you get the setups, you know, it just, the form, the art form, the craft, just kind of needs that 10-hour day.
And is it really cold out there?
It's fucking cold, okay? It was like 15, 20 below.
20 below,
you know,
and colder.
And keep in mind, we're 3 hours north of Oslo most of the time in Lilyhammer, you know. And it snowed every night, every single night in Lilyhammer, and it would freeze. It was really beautiful because the snow, it was so cold the snow froze, so when it hit the ground it would sparkle, you know. And the whole countryside would sparkle at night. And you know, it snows so much they don't shovel it in Lilyhammer. They have steamrollers just crushing it in the snow, so you don't see the ground for like 6 months.
How long did you stay for the shooting? How long? I mean, how many days per episode of shooting?
Because Stevie had like the craziest schedule because of his radio show that he mentioned earlier. He had to go back to New York every other week. So he would stay for 1 week with us and then go back for 1 week. And how he survived it, I will never know.
Yeah, you know what? And we did it out of necessity, and it was the last logistical hurdle to overcome. Because I said, I can't come for 3-4 straight months. I mean, just no way. You know, I got 5 different businesses going on, you know, and not only the radio show, but other things. And I said, listen, I know it's crazy, but if I can come every other week, I think I can work it out, you know?
Let's make it easy.
And that's what we did. But that's what we did. And you know what? It turned out to be a great way to work.
But what did they shoot when you were not there?
Well, the other stuff, you know, the other characters, and we kind of wrote with that in mind a little bit. We tried anyway. In the end, I think I ended up staying more, you know, because by the end of the shoot, you know, of course you're way behind, and so you're trying to catch up. But mostly it worked, and it was a wonderful, wonderful way to work because, you know, by the end of the week you work very hard, and you know, you get burned out pretty much every week anyway. You go home, you get a whole other world, you know, and you come back the next week, and it's fresh again. You know, and it was wonderful.
It's a detailed question, but was that part of the production company to pay for traveling back and forth to New York, or just a detail that part of the production company having to finance this traveling back and forth with the other businesses? Yeah.
Yes, of course, we couldn't expect him to pay for it himself.
It was expensive enough as it was.
Well, maybe that's an idea for season 2.
Yeah, so good thing. I was coming to season 2. I guess with the success you had, you were already writing the season 2, correct? Not so obvious.
Okay.
Not so obvious.
No, but if we are already writing the season 2, was that the question?
No, the question is, yeah, are you writing season 2 already?
We are planning a season 2, and
we're close to writing.
Very close to writing.
So you're late.
Yeah, we started thinking about it, but and we all want to do it. So it's just we just need to. It's the same as the last time. The logistical stuff, you know.
I think
we are committed.
You are committed, but why? If it was on the air this year, correct? When was the last showing?
In
March.
Beginning of March. Yeah.
March. And so you want to be on the air at the same time next year?
We'll see. Not same time next year. No,
so
that's impossible.
With the success you had, just a question, you had a 57% rating. So would the network see such a rating and say we commission writing right away to make sure we go back next year at the same time on the air? Or not? No. There's a story
there. Actually, I mean, I got a hunch that this was going to be a big success, and I wanted kind of confirmation, you know, that it's not only me says that, hello, we had a huge success here. So we had test screenings very early in June last year, when on a very rough cut of the programs. And it turned out very well. It was seldom positive test screening, the audience was very enthusiastic, even though it was really rough cut. And some of the scenes were not shot yet. It was just, on black and describing, here it is supposed to be a scene on this and that. And I wanted this test screening so I could go, to NRK and say, hello, we need to take a decision very quick. But it took some time. We couldn't take that, because it all have turned a bit more bureaucratic, and I need to involve more people.
So you felt that you wanted to go on season 2 right away, but you had a bureaucracy behind you that was still to move.
Yeah, and then it is, we have a lot of our money binded up in in-house production, so we can't.
But it's also not that uncommon for like NRK often air like one season and then you wait a little bit and then you air another. It's not like the commercial channels that always.
Yep, that's true.
From season to season. So it's a different. And also I think Netflix has a completely different model. I mean, it's their model is they don't show episodes. They just buy the show and they own it for a couple of years and they just put it all out there and people can watch it when they want, whichever episode they want. If they want to start with number 8 and then go backwards, they can do that. I mean, it's and it's so I think for them also it might not be a big deal,
No, it turned out to be very lucky because we. Well, look. Let's just be honest here. What the basic tradition was different as far as Norway selling shows internationally. This was highly unusual. So they're not sitting around the boardroom saying, "Okay, when we sell this show internationally, how do we plan that in our next 5-year budget?" In fact, when we met with Tona and her boss. I asked them, how many shows do you do that actually repeat year to year? We're and like one every 2 years or so, I think he said. Wasn't that unusual? That, in other words, most shows end that season, whether it's a mini-series, what we call a mini-series in America, like a 3 or 4 show arc, or maybe even a one-time show, or there's they do 4 or 5 shows a year, whatever it is, but only one out of every 2 years actually goes into a season, and none gets sold virtually overseas.
Yeah.
So our discussion, was, well, that's not how the rest of the world exactly works. And I'm thinking ahead, trying to think, okay, now when it comes to international sales, how do I tell people they're not getting a show every year?
Yeah. On the other, is Netflix asking you for season 2?
Well, it turned out by just really a bit of luck that we ended up with Netflix, who are completely different from everybody. As I suggested, they put all 8 episodes up at once, number one, which is how viewers are now watching shows, without a doubt.
They put them all together, and you can download. Streamline them.
You can watch the whole series. You can watch the whole season in one weekend or whatever, or one night.
Which means it's going to change a lot of the programming system all over the world. This kind of consumption.
This is the beginning of the future for sure. I talk to any young people you talk to. They're even weekly series now. They're taping them and they don't watch them until they're all taped, and then they watch 3 or 4 in a row. That's just how it is. That's the future. It's here right now.
And that is also what you can see with what I said in the beginning, that people record the show. And that's 41% of the audience. They record
41%?
Yes. When it comes to drama. And they watch it later. So I think the audience is a bit ahead of us.
I guess for you, Tony, it's a great experience to have been working with Netflix. And I guess you're going to continue this kind of relationship working with a different player. In someone who is not a network, they distribute differently the programs.
They are a network, keep in mind. It's just a new type of...
I know, but it's not like a network like with a TV guide, the show is on Wednesday and next Wednesday. It's like iTunes, you buy and you see them when you want, so it's a different type of player. So it's interesting that a network in Norway would actually co-produce, because it's a co-production, correct? With this kind of new player. It's like if you were co-producing with iTunes or with... next Google. Or...
But it is, I mean, our ambition is also to, you know, give our audience what they want, where they are, when they are there, in a way, right? So it is our ambition. But at the same time, our budgets are very closely linked to the TV schedule, in a way. And so if we do binge television, like Netflix does, publish all episodes at one time, we kind of spend all the money at once, instead of, you know, spending one each week. So that is, but it's interesting how it will develop, and I think the audience will decide for us.
It's a new idea, and I think it'll take a minute, you know, for an arcade and everybody really to adjust to the possibilities here, because there's a whole.
Actually, they did, because they produced it.
Yes, but that was a little bit after the fact. It wasn't discussed before production began. You know, it was a whole different discussion.
If you hadn't brought Netflix on board, the series would not be existing.
Well, we would have had a problem already.
Would have been paid half the price you take.
Well, aside from the budget, we would have had a problem with scheduling, because the tour came up after we filmed, and I knew it was coming. So, you know, it required a very early decision, you know, and it was just earlier than NRK was used to doing. I mean, I don't think they've ever committed to a second season without the first season being actually broadcast. You know, that's just how they do things. You know, yeah.
And is Netflix present in Norway or not?
They will be.
They will be.
I think both HBO and Netflix will establish in Norway this year or next year.
So then for you, I guess it would be different if Netflix is present in Norway. You would ask them to return the distribution of the show until you screen
no,
it all.
because, you know, these are the kind of agreements that we do, that of course we have exclusively right to send the series first in our territory.
In your territory, but in the set they can do whatever they want.
But what actually what our audience could do if they were, you know, clever, they could also subscribe to in Netflix US.
Yeah,
you need an IP address.
It's like an iTunes, you need an American credit card and a US IP, and it makes it more difficult to download from the States, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to do that. Yeah, you could do it, but I mean,
it's illegal. But keep in mind that the relationship can continue using Netflix as a second window. I mean, you know, they've been traditionally the fourth window, okay, up until recently.
When they're putting 50% of the cost, I mean, it's a little more than a second window.
It doesn't matter when the home network is Norway, they're going to make an exception for Norway. Why not? You know, why not? You know, they're partners, so they'll come second window, and when they're done broadcasting, rebroadcasting, whatever they want to do, that's the model for the future. Because, you know, Netflix are not going to have that many original programs. You know, they're not going to quite be up to HBO's level of, you know, they're doing, I don't know what now, 6 or 7 or 8 a year.
But does that mean they have a group of people at Netflix being in charge of these new contents? And executive, creative people and stuff?
Yeah.
So they are slowly becoming a network.
Yes. Oh, yes. They're there right now. And that's why they're starting to shift the relationship with all the networks who have been giving the movies, you know, because they were a second or third or fourth window. They just had a big thing with Stars, very well publicized, that pulled all their movies, which was you know, I forget the deal was a $100 million deal, you know, a huge deal, and they pulled all the movies because they're starting to see Netflix now as a competition.
Can I ask John a little bit about the cost of that show? I know you want to be just, you know, but just a little bit, do you have an idea for us, you know, what this kind of show costs out there?
But I'd like to say something about then first the culture in which we produce television. You know, we have a very flat structure. There is a lot of equality in the Norwegian society, and that also reflects the way that we work. So very often we work with multi-functions and so on. that makes our production a bit, not so costly in a way. That we are used, and because we are so few people, we need to find economical solutions for things. So this is kind of the basis in the culture that we produce television in. Our working hours are very short. I mean, we have 37.5 hours of working each week, and we have very short lunch breaks, and we don't have hot lunches. We make our lunch packets, and we grab a sandwich in at the side of the road with some bad coffee from instant coffee from a thermos.
In other words, let me just interrupt to say that our budget was equal to the catering budget of Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, but this is true.
I think I will not get that number of the budget. I will not actually to do that this morning. I'm sorry, but I'm trying for 2 hours, and this morning too, I will not get this number.
No, but it is for a drama series is in the middle. When we do period drama, that is more costly. The show is shot on location. It's not any studio sense.
You have been in politics before.
Yes.
You had a career in politics somewhere. Okay, I think we will get the number.
And we work with quite small crews.
Its budget of that series is the catering budget of an American series.
Why is it so how much? Because how much? Why is it so touchy?
No, we don't publish these numbers. But I mean, I think it's interesting to compare volume of the resources that you have spent. I think if we only go to money, it is doesn't give you any right answer.
Well, actually, yes and no. You have to know that we have the numbers for all the series that were shown here. We only learn the hour stuff. And it's really extremely interesting for us to see that in Norway or Denmark or Sweden, you're able to do series that are really great, and yes, with lower budget than one we spend either in France or in America. So for us, if you're telling me that costs, I'm going to say something silly, if that costs $300,000 or euros a show, 1 hour, we will all say, right, fantastic, because you were able to do that for a little money.
Yeah.
So that's why we're trying to get this number.
Yeah, but actually I don't know either what the end budget was, because we have put some of the money that of the income of the sales into the production.
Can we just ask you another way, the same question? How much Netflix think they bought the series for?
This is a clever question.
What is the series worth for Netflix?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know, because it is Rubicon that is doing. It's a production company that is doing the deal with.
So we should ask.
I don't know either.
No. But I mean, we are.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows the writer, the producer, the network. Nobody knows how this series costs.
But I know that we are more cost effective than many other countries. We are more cost effective.
That's a clue.
Than Denmark, for example. Denmark has a lot more catering, and they are taking care of the actors in quite another way than we are. Stephen had a trailer that was, and all the other actors were so happy. Stephen had a trailer.
Like when the people.
I didn't. Well, let me just. In my diva defense, let me just say. We're doing the deal, right? And the lawyers, and Laura keeps coming back saying something about the trailer. And I'm like, what the hell are we talking about the trailer? In America, the first 7, 8 actors of a show all have trailers. It's just automatic. You know, and you know, like 3 or 4 times it came up, the trailer. I'm like, what the hell? He told me, you know, I get to Norway, I find out I have the only trailer in the history of Norwegian filmmaking.
Is it like a 25-meter trailer or just a short
piece of shit? It was terrible.
Like a low budget trailer.
It was like, you know, it looked like the honey wagon in America. It was fucking terrible. But, you know, the other actors, and these are the greatest actors in Norway. I mean, it's like Laurence Olivier of Norway playing our cab driver.
You were in the trailer, they were in the snow outside, freezing their butts off.
Yeah, but they're looking at things like the obelisk in 2001. You know, it's like, you know, they touch it, can I touch it? You know. I said, go ahead, take it home, take it for a spin. It's a piece of shit. But yeah, there's a different way of doing things over there.
I have a question just between you and me when we got out of this room. What was the cost of the show?
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
But just between us.
Yeah.
Let's just say it was 7 figures per show. But I'm not saying which currency.
Okay. Yeah, it was an idea, you know. Why don't you give the budget in crowns? We won't know what it means anyway, so. No, okay. Well, I think we have said it all. Is there any question in the audience?
Sorry, never mind the budget. I think we could just maybe project things based on other countries. So I think it was more about the below the line, so that we can compare how much time to shoot, or we got that, how much time ahead you have to prep, so we can compare to what kind of projects we may maybe improve there, or what kind of model we may try to improve. So I think that was the question, not to find out about any profit margin or any sales result. I think many producers here are eager to compare their models and methodology in terms of work. I think it's more about us, actually, than you. That was another question.
You have to be careful. Denis Leroy is a really good producer, you know, and any answer you're going to give, he's going to make a calculation. Be careful about your answer.
How many shooting days was it?
10 days per
10 days
episode.
per...
We're shooting 10 days per episode. About the preparation time, that was just horrible because we had, you know, finance issues. So we had just a month and a half, I think, before we. So we just. I don't think I would use our production as a model in that way. I mean, what I think was great about our production is, you know, Tone believing in this great idea, which is, you know, kind of weird and a gutsy move for a network, and for Stevie to want to do this, you know, to want to explore such a, you know, strange idea, and for ourselves, you know, to believe in it and write it. I think that's where I would get inspired from our idea. You know, the production was more, you know.
And you shot 4.5 minutes per day.
Yeah.
1.5 minutes a day.
4.
Four minutes a day. Yes.
4.5 minutes per day.
It's complicated. I mean, the second season will be probably a better, you know, example for everybody, because a lot of overlapping in the first season. That was just, you know, it was basically. It's a very complicated question because we were basically under budgeted, okay, and so we arrived and we all learned in a way that we had been a bit more ambitious than what certain elements of the production assumed would be. So we came with more ambition, I think, than common sense, and then you know, so we had to make adjustments every single day, all of us here, in our own ways. You know, we did not have as much pre-production as we should have. We didn't have as much post-production as we should have. You know, all those kind of things that just started to overlap. You know.
But you had your trailer.
But I had the trailer, which, you know, you can have.
It's on eBay.
You know, yes, on eBay. But anyway, so it's not a typical situation by any means. It may, I think next season hopefully will be a little bit more logical.
Anyway, I think for all of us here, it's really an example in terms of originality, in terms of new economic media, you know, having Netflix and the network. I mean, it's really, really interesting, this show. So I want to thank you for sharing all that with us. It was really fascinating, and we want to see the rest of it. So I don't know where we can find it. Either buying a used car on Netflix. But
it should be here. I mean, every country has bought it in Europe. That and I don't know why it's been held up so long. I guess the subtitles or whatever it is, but you should have it by now.
I think you are airing it on France 2 just now. Aren't you?
Arte, no?
Arte, okay.
Arte, yeah.
We don't even know the story.
But it is going on right now. Because I met a person outside who said...
I mean, the deal is going on.
No,
the
the
show.
deal, the show.
Oh.
It's airing.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Well,
Yes,
it's
I met
been
a person
voted.
who just saw it. Okay.
I don't know.
Est-ce qu'il reste des questions dans la salle? Non, sont un peu débordés. Non.
Moi j'ai une question. Marianne de Besnec.
Je vois pas.
Puisqu'on ne peut pas parler de chiffres, est-ce qu'il est possible d'avoir néanmoins, en termes de pourcentage, la part du scénario finalement dans un épisode de série norvégienne pour comparer
Okay,
effectivement?
Marianne still is trying to get the numbers, but another way, right way. She doesn't know the number, but she would like to know in percentage the share of the scriptwriting budget into the whole budget. The cost of the, the percentage of cost of the script into the whole budget.
We don't have that because Anna Eilif is...
You are kidding!
No, because
she's
Anna and
kidding.
Eilif are employed in Rubicon. So they have their deal with Rubicon. So it's actually...
I'll try another way. Can you give the budget of the catering on the series and the shooting? Of the catering? I'm just trying any way possible.
It was a pack of biscuits, maybe 3 packs of biscuits and some water.
And some bread
and this is
64 days.
And the budget is according to this one, right? Well, I guess we won't get the number, unless we lock them in this room, and we can lock you in this room, and you get out only when you tell the number. No.
But what I think, the way that we work, with this flat structure and things like that, I think, leadership in Norway is, not being bossy, but it is much more facilitating. And that is, in all the way that we work, we try to, kind of find best solution for each other, and we help each other. It's kind of, we have a Norwegian word called dugnad, which you don't have in English, and that is kind of raising the barn, doing things together and so on. But season 2 we will have more money, because I think, as Steven says, that about the ambition, it was a gap between the budget that we had and the ambition that all the crew got, especially when Steven got on board. Because, Steven van Zandt is coming. We are going to make Sopranos, and we didn't really have the budget of Sopranos.
And it's not just we want to be secretive, but you have to understand that Netflix was not on board to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's like we started out with a smaller budget, and then, we kind of went over that budget, and then Stevie saved our ass and sold it to Netflix, and we, spent a little more, to try to make it as great as we could, and Netflix also wanted that, so they kind of reinvested. So it's not like it was all planned out, just on that way to begin with. It just evolved into, something else than it was, from the beginning.
The truth is, a big part of the budget went into your trailer.
Yes.
So that's why.
All that diesel fuel thrown to the snow.
Just to get out of this questioning, I think the thing to conclude is that for us, without the above the line, which we don't want to know about, this show probably looks like £1 million or €1 million kind of 1 hour budget. Without the above the line, without the I think for us, sorry, just in a way, your system is so different, and I know it, that in a way it wouldn't make sense to compare. It's like apples and oranges in a way. Just as a conclusion, I'm saying that for us, this show in the UK would be no less than £1 million without above the line, because it's special, star cast or writers. So our questions are, what kind of mark is it? Are we way under this or way above? I know it's way under, but for some of us here, it's a way to see how we position ourselves in the production market in Europe for one of our series.
First of all, I don't mind saying, and I think it might be important to say that there was there's no above the line.
It's all below the line.
You know, and I think this may, and I'm saying this because for a reason. I think it might be the future in terms of how you get so-called celebrities or whatever to do a show. You know, I basically am working on back end. You know, so you know, I'm naturally, yeah. I mean, you know, I don't have the writing, the producing, the acting is all, you know, all part of the deal. You know what I mean? I don't, you know what I mean? So I try to adapt myself to the Norwegian culture, which I was trying to explain, and it's hard to explain because they're not a materialist society, which is shocking. Okay, it's shocking, especially to Americans, but they're really not. They don't think that way. You know, they think in terms of cooperation. You know, and that's why this is such a great fish out of water story. You know, they got a megalomaniacal mafia guy being dropped into a society that believes in, you know, the community. You know, so you know, I think in order to do things like this, which are low budget, you know, I think whatever, everybody has to jump in. You know, and you know, so you know, you work for very little money up front, and you work on the back end, and that's how you do it. You know, and you hope there is a back end. You know, and like I said, the writing part, the producing part, whatever else you do, you know, it's all part of it's just part of the teamwork. You know, and I think you have to have that attitude, and I think it's a good attitude for the future for basic lower budget type of things, which is going to be, which is most productions. Let's face it, especially local. Right? Unless you have a miraculous co-production with an America or somebody, they're all low budget. You know, so you know, how do you have somebody, you know, a star, so-called star or celebrity be in it? Well, that's the only way you can do it, and I would suggest that as a method of operations, because you know, it's a bit risky. You know, it takes the celebrity or whatever, the star has to go along with the thing. But if they believe in it, it's a good way to test whether they believe in it or not. I'll tell you that. You know, if they do believe in it, it's a good working method, because you know, it saves the money up front, which you don't have, and you know, if you get lucky, you know, you're gonna get paid eventually.
And you guys are really super good at keeping a secret. Really excellent.
I don't know why we're keeping it a secret, so personally, but I don't know what's the difference.
Just to conclude, so you don't think we're some kind of tax office, I think the question is more of a compliment for you guys. It's like, how the hell did they do this with the kind of average numbers we sort of all guess either over here or elsewhere. So it's like what you put on screen for any kind of budget in Europe, wherever that is great. That's what many producers think. What's the formula? But there is no formula, because you are in a system where it allows it, and your creativity made a project that actually fits in this sort of model. So I think, indeed, your questions are not relevant, because it's such a specific situation that we can't really put in rules on it. But just to conclude, it's really a compliment on the way you achieve such production value in Europe. I think that was the sense of the questions.
Well, I think we're done. Thank you very much for sharing all that. It was really interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.